Hello, hello, this is Kristen, and you're listening to Season 1 of Not Even Wine with Dinner. We have a lot of great stories this season to welcome you in as we talk about drinking, attempting sobriety, mental health, and aging, all wrapped up in a soulful but sarcastic package. For more info about this movement, head on over to www.notevenwinewithdinner.com. Now let's uncork the bottle and get started. Hello, hello, everybody. This is Kristen, and you are listening to Not Even Wine with Dinner, episode number 3. Well, hey there. I am super jazzed and super excited to announce, drum roll, brrr, I launched the Not Even Wine with Dinner website and webinar series this week. Yay! I don't have sound effects yet, so that's the best I can do for you. But I launched the website, so if you have an opportunity, please go over to www.notevenwinewithdinner.com, check it out, click around, see what you see. My weekly webinar series started this week over on my Skool.com page. That's SKOOL.com. Same thing under Not Even Wine with Dinner. So just, you can go to my website, you click on the services tab, or even the About tab, it will take you a little bit deeper in and get you to the Skool page. And then once you register for Skool, you can access the weekly webinars for free. There will be no cost unless you choose to want to join in my courses and my workshops. There will be one 30-minute workshop every week, and then every 4 to 6 weeks, I will be hosting either a course or a workshop that will be anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours. If you want to engage in all things in the nude, then you can bump up to the premium level, which is $10 a month. Or if you're not interested in doing that, you can just pay a separate fee for the workshops. The webinars are free at this point. I'm doing what my husband would say is take it around the block and see if the wheels fall off. Because I'm doing so many different things. It's a bit overwhelming and daunting just because I'm doing this all myself. Not that I'm whining, but I have a webinar, just launched the website. We've got Skool, courses, workshops, public speaking. I have a public speaking engagement over on the East Coast here in Guatemala next week, which I'm very excited about. So if you are interested in having me do a speaking engagement, please reach out. You can find me on my website, or you can email me at info@notevenwinewithdinner.com. All right, so I think that's enough shameless plugging for now. So for this week, what I want to talk about, I'm going to kind of double down on the first webinar a little bit. That one was mostly an introduction, talking about how the webinars are going to play out. I also talked about when our normal becomes unhealthy. And the only reason I'm doubling down on it this week is because the webinar series is new. It was attended. I can proudly say I did have a couple of attendees, but in order to get it to grow, obviously people want to know what they're investing their time in. So I'm going to cover a little bit today that I did in my webinar as well. I'm going to keep this about drinking. A lot of this applies to every addiction, but certain parts of this are specific to drinking because I'm going to talk a little bit about advertising and drinking in current day culture. Even if you're not a drinker or you feel like you don't have an addiction, just, hang on and just take a listen. Because if you think about when people say, oh, he or she has an addictive personality, that's total bullshit. We all have an addictive personality. It's just that we don't all have substance abuse. We don't all drink too much, smoke too much, eat too much, but we might engage in endless hours of Netflix binging. We might be addicted to gaming or shopping or spending or kleptomania. I mean, there's lots of different things, or pornography. There's tons of different things that we can all get addicted to. Social media, it doesn't have to be based in substance abuse. What usually happens is the reason that we become addicted is because A, there's hereditary, B, self-esteem issues, C, trauma, D, peer pressure. When I talk about peer pressure, just a side note, that is not specific to children. A lot of times we think of peer pressure as something that happens to kids in junior high school or high school, and it is not. That's bullshit. It's an adult adult can give just as much peer pressure, and I've experienced it firsthand. Those are different reasons that we become addicted. There's some sort of force that gets within us. And maybe there's also that dopamine that happens. We get that feeling of euphoria, whether it's drinking, smoking, eating, shopping, whatever it is that we're doing for our addiction. That's our why. Why do we do this? Why do we drink? Why do we eat? Why do we smoke? Why do we game? Blah, 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 blah. Why do we keep doing these things? What is your why? And that's the one thing I want you to start with is, why are you here? Why are you doing this thing that is not good for you? I'm going to set the scene for drinking. Society normalizes drinking 110%. Let's think about all the advertising we see. When it comes to beer ads, everybody's thin, happy, fit, and young. They're playing volleyball, swimming around a campfire. They're having a good time. Happy, happy, happy. And then if you're looking at ads for hard liquor, it's very dark, sexy, sultry, and sophisticated. It's normal. So then when you start to say, I think I'm doing this too much, there's a stigma that becomes attached to that. And that's when the word alcoholic sounds so horrible. When I told my dad that I had quit drinking the first time around, and this was in 2010, I made a comment about being an alcoholic, and his face all scrunched up, and he looked at me and went, "Don't tell anybody you're an alcoholic. Just say you drank too much." And I'm like, oh my God, what is the difference? It's the same thing. Just don't tell anybody you're an alcoholic. That's the stigma that society has put on that word, because we think that an alcoholic is homeless, jobless, penniless. We think of an alcoholic as less than. Alcohol is acceptable, so an alcoholic is less. They're less than good. They're less than what is considered normal in society. I mean, oh my gosh, hell, I think about when I was talking to people and starting to use the word alcoholic, people would say, "You're not an alcoholic, you just drink normal." I literally heard, "You just drink normal." And I used to think, well, what does that mean to you? I know what it means to me. I mean that my normal means that I'm a binge drinker. I was never somebody who got up every day and drank straight out of bed. I didn't sneak alcohol into my tumbler at work. As I got a little bit older, the drinking started to happen more during the week, but my binge drinking was detrimental to my health, physically, emotionally, mentally. Honestly, it wasn't until I started looking at some of the alcoholic checklists that exist. If you go to most websites that have to do with alcoholism, you can find a checklist. Are you an alcoholic? If you are Googling an alcoholic's checklist, chances are you already know the answer to that question. I would bet a significant amount of money on the fact that you probably are already drinking too much if you are looking into this. What now turns this from being this fun, happy habit, playing volleyball on the beach with all your skinny young friends, to becoming unhealthy? Well, as I just said, first of all, if you start looking online, or back in my case when I was younger, even looking in the yellow pages for Alcoholics Anonymous, I knew I needed to quit drinking, but I never did because of the peer pressure and the stigma of quitting. All right, so we set the scene. The scene is society has normalized it for us, and the idea of being an addict is bad. So our truth is the addiction is anything in excess that causes physical, mental, emotional stress on yourself, your relationships, your job, and there's plenty more after that. That is when the habit is unhealthy. You set the scene, everything's pretty, happy, sophisticated, and sexy. It's normal by society. But the truth is that we're doing something that is damaging to us, to our physical self, to our mental self, possibly to our family, our children, our friends, our spouse. There's a whole laundry list of what that truth could look like for you. And again, this is not just about drinking. That could be about gaming or Netflix or porn or shopping. If you're a binge shopper and you're spending money you don't have, it's detrimental to you, to your mental health, to your family, to your bills. So that carries over. If you are addicted to watching anything in excess, whether it's social media, and I keep saying Netflix, I shouldn't call them out. I love my Netflix. It could be Hulu or Amazon or Peacock. But if you're spending too much time in front of any screen, whether the content is G-rated or X-rated, it doesn't matter. It's whatever it is that you're doing in excess. If you're spending 10 hours in front of a screen, whether you're gaming or watching TV or porn or whatever, that is obviously affecting you. And most likely, if there's anybody else in your world, it's affecting them as well. That's the truth. Now, why are we talking about this? Because we need to make a shift. The shift is what is important. The shift is quitting is not about what you give up. It is about what you get back. So I'm going to say that again. Quitting, whatever your addiction is, isn't about what you give up, because giving it up looks like a negative. Quitting isn't about what you give up. Maybe circle give up and write negative, because that's what we think. We think that when we give something up, life is going to be horrible, but we're trying to give up something that's not good for us. It is about what you get back. It isn't about what you give up. It is about what you get back. Now circle get back, and out to the side of that, you can write positive. So think about that. Okay, you're going to give up this thing that you're attached to. We've all been there in some form or fashion. You know, you need to start thinking about how to shift your mindset. So maybe take a moment today and take that comment and that phrase and put it on your mirror, put it in your car, post it on your fridge, wherever, whatever you need to do with it. And I'm going to repeat it again. Quitting isn't about what you give up. It's about what you get back. And so I am going to now give you guys a couple of journal prompts. If you're not a journal person, then just listen. Just listen, take note. This is what I want you to think about going into the week. The first one is, what beliefs do I hold about my addiction being normal? What do you believe? What is it that you think is normal about what it is that you're doing? I'm going to guess that you know it's not normal if you're here and you're listening. Maybe you're listening because you're a friend of mine and you're just wanting to see what I do. Hello, I love you. Thank you for listening. But if you're here because you're interested in some sort of recovery or help with addiction, or maybe you just got low self-confidence, I want you to look at the beliefs behind what makes you think that what's going on is normal. I'm going to go back to drinking. In my world, when I was younger, it was basically everybody's doing it. Everyone's cool. That's why I drink. Why do you drink? I drink because it's cool. I drink because it makes me feel better. My friends want to be around me and think I'm funny when I drink. And I drink because it makes me feel accepted by the group. So those are examples for me personally as to why I was drinking so much when I was younger. When I was young, I didn't even like the taste of pretty much anything. There wasn't too much that I tried that I enjoyed. And when I did, then I would binge it even worse. And I'm just throwing that out there now in hindsight, sitting here as I'm recording this, realizing that I should have had the warning signs then. I started my drinking career and my experimental drinking at 13 with Budweiser beer. That stuff tasted nasty to me. I never liked the taste of beer when I was young. It had to be an acquired taste that started developing as I got into my late teens and 20s. But even then, I never really liked the flavor of beer. It wasn't until I got into my 30s and developed a more mature palate for fancier beers and imports and German and Belgian beers that I actually liked the flavors. But early on, didn't like it at all. And then when I went into college and started drinking things like trash can punch and screwdrivers, because those tasted good, I would pound them down. And then I was like binge drinking like a freak. So that should have been a warning shot for me, but it wasn't. So alas, moved 30 years forward. The beliefs again behind it were that I was cool. That's what I want you to think about for your first prompt this week. What beliefs do I hold about my addiction being normal? Number 2, the next one is, what does my normal look like if I give up fill in the blank? Whatever it is, whatever your flavor is, what does my normal look like? Because we sometimes don't think about that when we're in the throes of addiction. We just know we need to quit. I wish I could quit. I want to quit. Dear God, get me through this day and I'll quit. But we don't look forward. We don't look into the future. That's what I want you to do. I want you to look into the future and write down and actually take some time to reflect on that and think, if I quit doing this, or even if I cut way back, if that's something you're capable of doing, if you're drinking 4 drinks a day, if I cut back to 2 or 1, what would that look like for me? First of all, you'd save money. Second of all, you'd probably lose some weight. Third, your skin would feel better. You would get better. You might sleep better or have better quality sleep. You might have a clearer head. Your self-confidence might come back. That's up to you. I don't know what your life looks like. I just know for me that those are some of the things that happened when I did quit drinking. So again, doesn't matter what your addiction is, but that's what I want you to think about this week is think about your beliefs and your belief systems and why your beliefs tell you that something you're doing is normal. And then what would your normal look like if you were to give it up? And that's that for this week. So those are your prompts. That's what I want you to think about. It's very unfortunate that there's so much stigma in the world and peer pressure into what other people think is normal. And when we don't conform to the same thing that the people around us do, it becomes a problem, or it becomes, going back to peer pressure is the same phrase I want to, keep using, because that's exactly what it is. When somebody makes you feel bad that you're not doing what they think you should be doing, they're trying to pressure you, and it's peer pressure. Regardless of if it's a friend or a spouse or a family member or a friend, whoever. And on, on that note, a real, true friend will not try to pressure you into doing something you don't want to do. So that's another thing you can take away from this is when you think about your friends, I don't care what age you are, your friends who love you and care about you and have your best interest at heart are not going to try to pressure you into doing something you don't want to do. So take that one away as number 3. It wasn't on my list, but let's take that one away as number 3. Look at your friends, look at your circle, and if people are pressuring you to do something that you know isn't good for you, maybe they're not really your friends. Or maybe they are toxic. Maybe you need to start pushing them off to the side a little or just distancing yourself from that, so that you can get to what is going to be your new normal in the future. All right, so on that note, I am going to leave you for the week. And my plan with this podcast is to be bi-weekly. I'm not going to give you a static release date because right now I just can't. So be kind. I can't do it at this moment. I'm trying really hard, but I'm trying to juggle so many things that I have to get into a groove. Last week, it was just get this damn website published and out there so we can start making stuff happen. And that's where we're at now. So as I said earlier, we are just going to take all of these things around the block and see if the wheels fall off. So in the meantime, go be sure and check out www.notevenwinewithdinner.com. Click around, join the Skool page. That way you will be already in for next week's webinar. And just to give you that, next week's webinar is going to be about reclaiming confidence as we age. We're going to talk about aging, and it doesn't matter how old you are. We all are aging. We're from yesterday to today, we've aged. What happens sometimes as we get older, especially when we start hitting midlife, is we begin to lose our confidence because we start looking back and reflecting on the past, what we've done or what we should have done or what we didn't do. And then, oh my gosh, I'm 40, 50, 60. What am I doing with my life? What am I going to do with the rest of my life? Have I wasted my life? So we're going to talk about reclaiming our confidence so we can get rid of some of those negative thoughts in our brains. All right, my friends, you guys have a fantastic week and we will catch you next time. So in the meantime, stay safe and stay sober. We'll catch you later. Just a quick note of the legal jargon. I am not a medical or psychiatric professional, nor am I a recovery or addiction specialist. This podcast is for information use only, and I am simply sharing my own experiences with sobriety, drinking, mental health, and wellness. I'm not here to diagnose or to treat. So if you're struggling and you feel like you are in immediate need, please contact a medical professional or call 911. Thank you guys again. Stay safe, stay sober.